Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Before You Bet racing preview, looking at this Saturday's horse racing action at Caulfield in Melbourne and Randwick in Sydney. Brought to you, as always, by PlayUp. I'm your host, Tim Geers, joined on the other side by Trent Crebbin, and spring is certainly in the air. Trent, how's it going?
Yeah, good mate. I'm very well. It's a fat meeting at Caulfield with the PB Lawrence Stakes, and the meeting up in Sydney is really good as well with the up and coming potential star there. But I'll let you touch on that later.
Yeah, as you've mentioned, the Group 2 PB Lawrence Stakes headlines the meeting at Caulfield this Saturday, along with a number of other black type races on the card. And over in Sydney at Randwick, we have the Group 3 up-and-coming stakes for the 3-year-olds, a quality little field assembled, and some other good betting races on the card as well. In terms of the track at Caulfield, we're currently rated a soft 6, the rails in the 9-metre position, and at Randwick, as always this time of year, we're on a heavy 9 with the rail out 11 metres. So it's a little bit of track lotto going on in Sydney at the moment. We saw another monorail at Warwick Farm on Wednesday when everyone thought that the outside fence would be the place to be. It was actually the inside fence all day. So as always, it's probably going to take one or two races to really find out if there is a pattern eventuating. How do you think the track will play over in Melbourne, Trent?
I think it'll be a bit of an advantage to be on pace with the rail out 9 metres. Especially in the circle races, which is 1,400 metres plus, just because there is kind of that short run to the first turn there at Caulfield. In the sprint races, I think it'll be okay. They might look to come off the fence a little bit later in the day.
Now, talk to me about the week that was, because a lot of people that watch this show, I think, will feel for me, and they'll probably wonder what my virtual background is at the moment. But if you watched this show last week, and in case you've been living under a rock, this is the photo from last week's Highway Handicap, where on this show I tipped a $151 pop, and it got beat a nose. And if that wasn't enough pain for 1 week, if that wasn't enough pain, then on Wednesday at Warwick Farm, bar none, sat 3 wide the trip, got beat a nose at $6. And just because the punting gods hate me, I don't know whose black cat I've run over. I don't know what I've done to deserve this pain. But the scenes yesterday at Ipswich were nothing short of disgusting, where we'd backed 2 horses. One was $2.45 into $1.85, missed the start 3 lengths, came widest on the turn, got beat ahead. And just to round things out, put the icing on the cake, Kimpembe was $12 into $2.80. No scratchings, no deductions, 12 into $2.80. Was 6 lengths off them at the 300 and flashed home, got beat half a length into second. I was almost breathless. I was sitting there shaking. The week that I've had, if I cop another one of these on Saturday, I'm giving up. I can't take much more.
Yeah, I watched all of them and they were horrible. That highway, I think, just kicked things off. It's just gone downhill from there. Yeah, it's grim. Please don't give up. I don't know if I could run this show by myself, though.
Well, hopefully a few people, and look, by the reaction on my Twitter, more than a few people had something on the place around 30 or 35 to 1. So well done if you got a piece of that. We will be doing our level best to bounce back. And look, in the highway this week, I might just have another crack at something around 50 to 1. So stay tuned to make sure you do check out our previews on beforeyoubet.com.au. You won't want to miss a beat. And look, all we can say is that we're identifying the right horses. We're betting well, and sometimes you get the luck and sometimes you don't. But pretty happy with how we're betting at the moment, and the results will come. Speaking of betting, we'll get into your best bets of the day, brought to you, as I've mentioned, by PlayUp. Trent, we'll start with you over in Caulfield. Your best of the day. It's only short, but you've just declared this off air to me, so I'll let you do it to all the punters at home. Race number 9, horse number 4, a horse that I'm very familiar with, Showmanship, currently $1.85. Take it away.
Yeah, Showmanship's a WA galloper, so hence your familiarity with the horse. I think it's won its last 4 this preparation. I think it's only lost once, and it was a moral beaten that day. Had no luck in the straight. Its last 3 runs in WA have just been dominant. The margins haven't been huge. It's only been about 2 or 3 lengths in the last 2. But he started $1.08 and $1.12 in those starts. Just almost unbackable. Here we're getting $1.85, and I think that's a great price. Yeah, those two last runs, he could have won by 6, 7, 8 lengths if Pike had even touched him. He's just cruising up hands and heels. If he'd even shaken the reins or hit him with the whip, he would have won by 6. Comes over here. He's a group horse racing against a BM84 field. If he was in the PB Lawrence Stakes, he'd be right in the finish, with race fitness ahead of the Peters duo there. So he comes to here at Caulfield, 1400 meters, draws barrier 9. Pike over in Melbourne takes the ride. He can just blend into the race. The horse is pretty adaptable with his racing pattern. He can settle forward, he can settle back. I think he'll just lob him where he feels comfortable, probably 1 off the fence, maybe 3 wide with cover if they do have a 3 wide line there. And he'll just be too strong. If Pike shakes him up, he'll just put them away. I can't see him losing. The $1.85 is more than a fair price. If for some reason a few people take him on and you get $2, just launch. Doesn't lose.
Brave. I like it. Ambitious, confident, just launch. And yeah, I completely agree. He's gone to the line untouched over here in WA. And what's really interesting about this horse is that they sent him over with obviously their stable stars to Melbourne. Now, a horse like this is a perfect candidate for the Group 1s over here in WA, the Railway Stakes and the Kingston Town Classic. And you would think if they're sending all their best horses to Melbourne, they would have something just up their sleeve to keep at home. And it's pretty obvious a long way out over here in the carnival which horses they've got set for the Group 1s, and this is definitely one. So the fact that they're basically giving up the opportunity for him to be aimed at those Group 1s in order to take him to Melbourne to undoubtedly contest better races in the spring tells me that they've got a very, very good opinion of this horse. And look, all you need to do is look at his record, and it speaks for itself. For more information on horses like Showmanship, I've put an article together on beforeyoubet.com.au looking at all 6 of the Peters and the Williams horses over in Melbourne from WA. We've obviously got Arcadia Queen, Regal Power, Showmanship, Windstorm, Superstorm, and Perfect Duel. 3 of them go around this weekend. If you need a little bit more information on their profiles or what races they may head to throughout the spring, I've done a full article, taking a detailed look at all 6 horses. So make sure you jump on the website and check that out. And hopefully it gives you a little bit of a lead into what races you'll see them in this spring. We'll move on to your best value bet of the day at Caulfield. Trent comes up in race number 5. You're with horse number 8, the Cruiser, at $20 with PlayUp.
Yeah, so the Cruiser had his debut at the Valley over 1,000 meters last start, and I thought his run was really good. He set it about midfield. And just that first time around the Valley, which is a real tight turning track, he kind of just lost a few strides around the turn there, picked up really nicely and ran the fastest last 400 and 200 meters of the meeting. And that was the day where we had group horse, quite a star filly, Brooklyn Hustle, go around. And he actually ran a faster 400 and 200 than her. And his 600 was second fastest of the day, just to Brooklyn Hustle as well. I think he can just settle really nicely from barrier 4 here. Should be able to just be just off the pace with a bit of intent early. And I think with that race experience and over to Caulfield with a bit of a longer straight, I think he can lengthen out really nicely. And I think he'll be right in the finish at around the $20 mark.
Okay, and we'll move on to today's feature race, which is race number 8, the Group 2 PB Lawrence Stakes, where we've got 7 individual Group 1 winners lining up in the field. These races can be a little bit tricky to assess this time of year with so many of these high-quality horses stepping out for the first time this spring. We've already alluded to the likes of Regal Power and Arcadia Queen who line up here. You're in the corner of horse number 3, Streets of Avalon, currently $7.50 with PlayUp.
Yeah, I found this race really tough. It's a great race. I can't wait to watch it. Anyone who's followed me, and I know you are a big fan of Arcadia Queen as well, I think she's just an absolute star. They got her prep wrong last spring. I think I'm already really keen on her for the Cox Plate. I can't wait to see her come back. But I don't think I can back her in the PB Lawrence Stakes. She's clearly had some issues with her feet. She's got bar plates on just to kind of try and rectify that. The stable said she's not fit. So I have to let her go around on Saturday. And with a few of these first up as well, I've gone looking for the fit horse who'll be on pace, which is Streets of Avalon. He loves the 1,400 meters at Caulfield. It's his pet track and distance. He actually won the Group 1 Futurity Stakes at this track and trip. Now, he did have a lot of bias in his favour that day, but he still put about 4 or 5 lengths on some really quality horses back in the field. So I think he can just go straight to the front here and just try and get a real solid tempo going with a couple other on-pace fit horses engaged and just keep kicking. The only negative I have for him is wet ground. I don't think he likes it, and we could be on a soft 6-ish kind of track there. So that's probably my only knock on him, but I think he'll be there for a long way, and just whether the wheels start spinning in the soft ground is a bit of an unknown there. But yeah, I think he'll be right in the finish. The other one I just want to have something on as well is Mystic Journey. She won this race last year first up. She's a 1,400 meter miler kind of horse. I think they tested her out to 2,000 meters. I don't think she really runs 2,000 meters. She's had 3 trials. Again, she's looked just as good as ever. I think she's come back really well. And yeah, I think she's one of the first up horses that is really suited to the 1,400 meters here and should be right in the finish as well. So I think you can back both of them, and I think you'll probably be getting a result.
Fantastic. Yeah, can't wait for that race. It's going to be an absolute cracker. And after a long few months, slogging it out over winter, it's really good to see these top quality Group 1 horses return ahead of the spring. And yeah, can't wait for Caulfield on Saturday. We'll shift over to Randwick now in Sydney and get into my best bets of the day. And my best is going to come up in race number 4. I'm with horse number 9, TORUN, at $3.20 with PlayUp. Look, it's not often I tip a horse such as this coming off a maiden win at Hawkesbury, on a weekday, stepping straight up to a 72 rated race on a Saturday in town. But I really like the fashion in which this horse won his debut at Hawkesbury. He was backed as if unbeatable before the race. He was something like $2.30 into $1.75 before the jump, and he just won with a leg in the air. The margin was 3.75 lengths, so 3 3/4 lengths, but he went to the line untouched. He had plenty more in the locker, and I think this is a pretty smart horse. That backed up a couple of smart trials at Warwick Farm and Hawkesbury. Notably, Brenton Avdulla rode him that day, and he chooses to stick with this colt. And in doing so, he jumps off 2 other horses in the race. He rode Matthew Dunn's runner, Katoom, I think it's called. He rode that to victory on debut at Warwick Farm. He jumps off him, and he's also ridden Gunner Matter in his 2 career starts to date, and he jumps off him to keep the ride on TORUN. So from barrier 4, the map looks lovely for him. He should be able to just slot behind the speed there. Doesn't really matter what the pattern of the day is. He'll be able to find himself in a spot to suit. I think there's a couple of queries on a few others in the race. Best Stone is around $6, and I think got absolutely everything to suit last start, courtesy of just an outstanding ride by Nash Rawiller. But Nash is replaced today by Tom Sherry, so that's an obvious negative. I thought Willow Hart probably had its chance first up from a spell. And the interesting runner, and I think you'll touch on this shortly, Trent, is number 2, Bartley, for Peter and Paul Snowden. James McDonald booked to ride first up from a spell. But I think they all have to beat this colt by Medaglia d'Oro. TORUN, as I said, very, very impressive debut. And even though he does step out of maiden grade straight into a benchmark 72 rated race on a Saturday in town, I think he is capable of taking that step up. And I've made him my best bet of the day, $3.20 with PlayUp. Have you got any thoughts on that race? Do you want to touch on Bartley very quickly?
Yeah, I thought the favourite there does look hard to beat, TORUN. Just thought Bartley comes out of some pretty strong 2-year-old races, and we see time and time again with the Snowden horses, they can just improve again into that next kind of prep into a 3-year-old. J-Mac booked to ride is always a little bit scary, but potentially has bigger fish to fry, maybe over a little bit further as well. So I think, TORUN's probably the horse to beat.
Yeah, and at the prices, you could more than back both there. As I've mentioned, TORUN $3.20 and Bartley's hovering around the $8 mark. We'll move on to my best value bet of the day, and it comes up in race number 8. I thought this was a very, very difficult race to work out with a number of stayers resuming from a spell, but I've made horse number 13, ALIFEROUS, my best value bet of the day. She's currently around an $11 chance with PlayUp. She doesn't win out of turn, this 5-year-old mare. She's only had 3 career victories from 26 starts overall. So it's hard to kind of tip her confidently to win. But I think she's in this race with a very good chance first up from a spell. She resumes with the blinkers on again, which is an obvious sign of intent that they've got her pretty forward. She's resuming with 2 trials under the belt. And if you look back to her first up run last preparation, she ran second to a horse called Master of Wine. Now, you might recognise that name. He goes pretty good, Master of Wine. He's only one of the favourites for the Cox Plate and some of the spring majors. So that's a very good form reference. She went into that race first up with just 1 trial under the belt. So the fact she comes into this race first up with 2 trials under the belt and the blinkers applied again suggests to me that she could be pretty forward to run a good race here over 1,400 metres. She has placed twice from 3 occasions at this distance. She's won at this track before. The wet ground is always a little bit of a query first up from a spell, but as I've said, there's a lot of horses in this race resuming from a spell and looking for far longer than the 1,400 metres. So she might just find a race where she can kind of be a little bit sharper than some of those stayers resuming. A couple of these horses down the bottom that are the emergencies look probably the horses to beat, the likes of Pancho. Poetic Charm is going very well this preparation. If it gets a run, can be competitive. But I just thought in an open race with a lot of horses looking for further, 53 kilos on the back, blinkers on first, blinkers on again. I'm happy to be in the corner of ALIFEROUS each way at around $11, and we may even get better on the day given her poor winning strike rate. We'll move on to the day's feature at Randwick, which is the up-and-coming stake for the 3-year-olds. As I've mentioned, this is a cracking little race number 7 on the card. I think the favourite here, there's no prizes for saying this, but I think the favourite's going to be very hard to beat. This is horse number 2, North Pacific. He resumed from a spell first up at Rosehill 5 weeks ago when he was still a 2-year-old. Now, there was a very obvious reason that he ran in that race. He's still a 3-year-old colt, well-bred, and it looks very good on the breeding page for him to have a winner as a 2-year-old. So they obviously targeted a very late season 2-year-old race with him at Rosehill, and he got the job done comfortably by 2.5 lengths. But look, I think he's far more than capable of tackling far greater races than this. I would be surprised if he wasn't targeted at something like the Golden Rose. And look, the Hawke stable have a very good record here at Randwick. James McDonald takes over from Kobe Jennings, draws barrier 1 to do no work. So he could basically settle wherever he wants in the run. And I think he'll be too strong, albeit this does look a little bit of a tricky race with a few horses resuming and a few different form lines. But happy to stick with the favourite, North Pacific, currently around $2.20 with PlayUp to win the Group 3 up-and-coming stakes. Trent, have you got any thoughts on the feature race at Randwick?
I agree. I think North Pacific will probably be hard to beat. And yeah, I think he'll target the Golden Rose, which is going to be a cracking race.
How good. Just some of these 3-year-olds that are still to come back. I think we're going to do a piece in the next week or two, potentially looking at some horses to follow throughout the spring or, a few of our horses to keep an eye on. None more so than the likes of Peltzer, who, is just a mouth-watering proposition returning to the track, especially after what Anders did last weekend. And Peltzer basically made Anders look second best when they lined up. So it's going to be a really, really fascinating, especially with this restriction on horses travelling into state as well. It'll be fascinating to see the makeup of some of these spring races. And just can't wait for these good races to come. We're certainly got the smell of spring in the air, and it all starts this Saturday at Caulfield and Randwick. As I've said, make sure you jump on beforeyouBet.com.au to check out our previews for the weekend. Trent will have his thoughts on all 9 races at Caulfield, and I'll take you through every race at Randwick. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Every subscription helps us, so please subscribe and you won't miss a beat for every video that we do post. And if you are having to punt, please do so responsibly. Trent, any other thoughts for the weekend?
No, I can't wait to get stuck into it. Watch the races on Saturday. Very keen.
All right, guys, that's been us. Thanks to PlayUp once again. Good luck if you are having a bet on the weekend, and make sure you stay tuned to beforeyouBet.com.au. See you next week.